So there are a number of people who have done some great work on this long before we have on the whole subject of hearing God's voice. One of those is Dallas Willard, who wrote a book called Hearing God. Another one is Dr. Carl Lehman, who has written The Emmanuel Approach. Another book has been put together by Dr. Jim Wilder and John and Sungshim Lopnow and Anna Kang called The Joyful Journey, and it is about a journaling practice, which really inspired this practice that we're teaching today. All of them have worked together to. And I want to throw out also Mark Verkler, and if you even jump into quite a bit of stuff that John Eldridge has done, everyone has talked about how can we adopt attitudes and skill practices that kind of bring us into the place where we can start to tune in and discern God's voice. So there's a lot of people who've done a lot of good work, and the practice that we are teaching is related to a lot of the work that's already been done. The biggest thing that many have found helpful in opening themselves to this practice of listening to God speak to them is to make it an experiment and to have an attitude of play and have an attitude of curiosity and of wonder. Uh, the biggest thing that can ruin any relationship is getting really, really nervous about how the relationship is. We do not have to have performance anxiety when it comes down to listening to God. So, our practice is just simply throw out a couple of questions and then get yourself in a receiving posture in your heart. So, after we've done some work with appreciation, which is like the passcode to the presence of God, it's pretty common that we'll just use a couple of questions. And the questions we most commonly ask are God, how do you feel about me? How do you feel about this? How do you feel about us? If you think about earlier, when you're getting ready to write an appreciation story, one of the things that I've said it's helpful to do is just to check in with yourself. And here you're asking the question, how am I feeling? How am I feeling about me? Now we're going to God and saying, God, how are you feeling about me? Or with a group of people, how are you feeling about us? How do you see us? And we get a chance to renew our perspective about God. A second question is, God, is there anything you want us to know? Is there anything you want us to know? If you want to get God's perspective on something, you can just ask. And we also might ask in an appreciation story, God, would you show me where you are in that appreciation story? Oftentimes, when we have a sense of where God is or what God's doing, it also teaches us truths about Him and about ourselves and the world around us. So, those questions, how do you feel about me? How do you feel about us? Is there anything you want me to know? Would you show me where you are in this story? Or ways that we can experience communion with our Maker. So, you've adopted an attitude of curiosity and of wonder. Now, what are some things that you can pay attention to? We found a great helpful acronym from a neuroscientist named Dan Siegel. He talks about sifting your thoughts. So as you're paying attention to God, you might use that acronym SIFT that Dan Siegel uses to pay attention to sensations that might be going on, pay attention to images that might come to your mind, pay attention to feelings, and pay attention to thoughts. So all these things, it might be from you, they might be from God. What's important in this process is to grab a pen and a paper and begin to jot down whatever comes to your mind. There will be time to edit and weigh and discern afterward. The first most important thing in this listening exercise is just to get it all down. Just capture it and write free flow. And along the way, pay attention to your own heart. Because as you begin to discern things that feel like they're coming from God, it's oftentimes natural that your heart responds with its own questions or with its own comments. There's a lot of people that spend time listening to God and journaling with Jesus that they find there's almost a bit of a dialogue going on back and forth, connecting with God, with what seems to be God. And again, afterward, you can weigh. You can share what you're sensing with wise friends and people that walk with you. You can weigh it against the scriptures. You can weigh it against truth. Important thing, as I said, is to get it all down. So that is, in a nutshell, what we do when we help people use appreciation as a springboard to actually have time and interactive communication with God for the strengthening of your heart, for the strengthening of your own walk, and how you show up in the world around you. We bless you and send you off and wish you the best in your practice. And if you would love to get in touch with me or get in touch with us to share a little bit about or to ask any questions, we'll be more than happy to respond. So God bless and thanks for tuning in.